Hi everybody, Steve Scott here, and I want to cut this video on a kind of an interesting topic to me because I'm a bit of a geek on stuff like this, but I think it's an important old-fashioned coaching concept, and really it's a traditional way of looking at the progression of skill, and it's called Shuhari, which is three words combined. I'll talk about it here. I'm going to read off my notes here, so every so often I'll look down and look up, so I hope I apologize for that. But I do want to get things right because it's a really interesting topic to me. So let's delve right into it. So what Shuhari is a very old concept used in Aikido, Kendo, I think, some forms of karate, and it's really going from basics to a very advanced level of skill learning, and it's a description of it, and it's a as I say, a journey, as it were, but it's how one transcends to the next level. So we're going to take a look at that. So Shuhari is a combination of three words meaning to obey, okay? That's the shu. Ha means to break away from something or to break something. And that's ha. Ri means to transcend, to go beyond something, okay? So while this concept of using Shuhari in teaching and learning is not often mentioned in judo, we don't see it a lot in judo. In fact, it's very rare to be discussed in the judo circles. But as I said, you'll see it in some of the other martial arts. You'll see it certainly in Aikido, Kendo, and I think it was formulated probably around the mid to late 1800s, and it was adopted, and moved about to fit the needs of each particular martial art or martial discipline. So we see it more in these other martial arts than we certainly do in judo, but it does provide a good basis of talking about progression of skill and pedagogy when we talk about teaching judo as well. So we're going to keep it in the framework of judo here. But again, you could apply this to anything, whether it be sambo, no matter what subject, this can be applied to it. So we don't mention it often in the Kodokan way of looking at the pedagogical approach to learning and teaching. It's what it is, obviously. So this concept, like I said, comes from Aikido, and I kind of looked at this. I've kind of looked at this because I love to at least have an academic study of some of the other martial arts and look at how they teach it. And over the years, I've been aware of this, and I finally wanted to kind of do something about it, and kind of maybe wrap it up into where we could use it in judo. So that's why I'm cutting this video. So as I said, there are three levels to Shuhari. Okay, so Shu really is the initial phase of learning, okay, from a progression of skill, from very basic level. That's your initial phase of learning. Ha is the second phase. It's more of an intermediate type phase. And Ri is the third or highest phase of the process. And a general way of looking at this that some people do is that Shu really equals to, it means to, like, you're learning from the basis of the tradition, the traditional basis of whatever martial art it means. So you're learning from that tradition. And then Ha, you're starting to break away from it. You've gained enough skill that you're breaking away from the basic elements or the basic structure or form of the tradition. And then Ri is you've transcended. You're able now, you can start being innovative, you can start kind of creating on your own. So you're transcending the very basic tenets of the tradition or the basic kata or form or structure of the skill or subject at hand. So those are the three levels. Now, this concept, while progressive in nature, is really fluid in application. As a person has attained the Ri level of development, he or she will continue to find new aspects to the skill. So, yeah, you've been taught the basics hopefully very well, but as you really become quite good at it, and you attain the highest level of appreciation and understanding of whatever the skill or subject might be, the technique, you may delve back into it and find new things about that very basic element that, God, that's new. I hadn't thought of that before. But what's happened is, with the accumulated learning and experience you've had, you can now come back and look at the basic structure, maybe from a different viewpoint and a little more technical viewpoint that you can add to it and even become better at it. So you're coming back and you're relearning a little bit. You're back in the Shu phase of it again, the initial learning of the structure and maybe how that works better. Happens to me all the time, and I'm sure if you think about this a lot and lose as much sleep as I do at night about this stuff, you've probably thought about this as well. So it's probably happened to you as well. Okay, so let me get my place here. So also, Shuhari means it's all learning. It's all learning. It's not just one aspect of things. So there's a progression of skill in anything you do, no matter what. So a good example is just because someone maybe is highly skilled at a martial art, this one thing at the martial art doesn't mean he's highly skilled at being an auto mechanic. Okay, I mean, a good example is me. I like to say all the time, I may be a black belt in judo and jiu-jitsu, but I'm certainly a white belt when it comes to the internet and computers in general. And I always have to call Derek and say, hey, can you come over and fix the problem I just got into, because he is an IT expert. So I may be a black belt in judo, but I'm certainly a white belt, maybe a yellow belt level in IT now, but I'm pretty weak with it. So you see what I mean. So you're always learning something new, and once you do attain a mastery level of this, the re level in some skill, it kind of changes you in a way. It makes you understand that, hey, I'm not quite as smart as I thought I was. There's a lot I have to learn. There's a lot, and honestly, in my own case, and I'm sure you may say this about yourself as well if you're honest, there's a lot more I don't know about things than what I do know. So, I've got this one thing I'm pretty good at, but I'm always continually learning other things. So Shuhari is a continually fluid set of learning. So you're always on a progression of learning, no matter what it may be. So that's another aspect of Shuhari, which I find very interesting. So anyway, I might also add, I just wrote here on my notes, a judoka may indeed be an auto mechanic, like I said before, or I was mentioning about IT expert, so I mentioned here as an auto mechanic. But like I said, I may be a black belt in judo, but I'm sure not a black belt in auto mechanics, and that's a good way to put it. So just because you've learned one set of skills doesn't mean you have another, set of skills in another. You get the point. Okay, so Shu is that initial learning phase in the skill development. So there are some defining elements on Shu. So I'm going to go down through these and try not to be so gabby as I am here. Okay, so number one, the student in the Shu phase, okay, the very initial beginning phase, the obey phase, it's an initial or basic level. He or she learns and applies the basic structure, form, or the kata. Okay, the kata means form or basic structure, okay, of a technique, skill, or subject. Okay, so you're at the very basic level. So that's number one. Number two, the student copies or imitates the methods the instructor or coach will show him. Okay, so the student learns the technique, skill, or subject without variation. He learns it the way the instructor explains it to him and has him apply it there. So it's at that level. So no variation yet. Okay. Number three, the student stays within the basic structure, form, or parameters of the technique, skill, or subject. So again, he stays within, no variation, he stays within that very basic structure and becomes more adept at it. Okay, number four, as the student progresses in this phase of learning, he will gain competence and skill in the basic application and performance of the technique, skill, or subject. And as the student reaches this more skilled level, he will gradually start to move into the next phase of skill learning. So as you can see, you're starting to, it's fluid, you're starting this progression, you're starting to move up. As you have a really basic structure, now you're starting to see it's starting to work for you, and now how can I make it work even better? So now we're getting into the second level. The ha is the second level of skill development. So here are some defining features or elements of the ha, the breaking, okay, is it? Okay. The technique, skill, or subject becomes natural to the student. This is the phase where a learned automatic response takes place and starts to show. The student no longer has to think about applying the technique, skill, or subject, whatever it may be, but instead he or she has the ability to react skillfully in applying the technique, skill, or subject. Okay, number two, the student learns and applies some level of variation on the basic application of the technique. So now the student's starting to branch off and do some variety, some variation of the basic structure of the movement. The student starts to experiment, learns how to adapt the technique, skill, or subject to best suit himself for success. Okay, so he wants to start making it functional. He's starting to get into that phase now. The student will stay within the basic framework structure or form of the technique, skill, or subject, but he's more adept at it now, and he's starting to branch out in terms of personalizing it. Okay. Number 3, the student starts to achieve a more consistent, higher rate of success against other students at his same level or against students who are more experienced. He's still using this basic skill level, so he's starting to get some consistency, higher rate of success in what he's doing in the basic form he's using. At the middle or late level of this phase of development, this corresponds really to the Shodan level of technical appreciation and ability. Shodan means initial grade, and this is the appropriate and accurate description of what takes place in a student's development. This is the phase when the student has a basic mastery of the fundamental structure of the form or technique, skill, or subject, and the student is now ready to begin innovating and developing his or her own style when applying the technique, skill, or subject. So he's starting to be innovative, he's starting to develop into that third level. Okay, so he's mastered the basics, and now it's time to make them work for him. Ri is the third and most advanced skill we're talking about, and this is the transcending to a higher level of appreciation and understanding and doing. Okay, so here's some defining features of this formative, this development level. The student has achieved mastery of the technique, skill, or subject. The student now knows what, how, and why. Okay, he or she understands and appreciates what to do when applying or performing the technique, skill, or subject, as well as how it works and why it works. So now he has a further and deeper understanding, appreciation of not just what he's doing, but how to do it and why he's doing it. So this is the first, probably the most defining element of the Ri level. Okay, the student's skill is spontaneous and natural. The student has a well-trained automatic response in applying or performing the technique, skill, or subject. The student feels his judo. There's an old saying, you feel your judo, and that's when you're at this level, you feel your judo, you feel your technique. It's at this phase of development. He's developed a keen kinesthetic awareness and appreciation of the technique, the skill or subject at hand. So he's beginning to have this kinesthetic awareness. He can feel it. He can make it happen. Okay, it's not just, he doesn't have to think about it anymore. It's automatic. It's an automatic, skilled, learned response. The student has refined the technique. This is the third element of it. So it's functional and practical to him. The student, as I often say, makes the technique work for him. I got that phrase. I learned that phrase from Morris Allen many years ago, and that's when you're at this level, you want to make the technique work for you. This is the style. We call it the style that is unique to the student. We each have our own style. Once we get to be very skillful at something, and we begin to, you can say, well, that's the way so-and-so does uchimata. That's the way so-and-so does jujigatami. That's that person's style. They've made it their own. Okay, and that's what you want. You're at the Ri level now. Okay, so now the fifth one is, the fourth one is the student understands and appreciates the full context and scope of the technique, skill, or movement. So he or she's able to now really appreciate this in whatever context he wants to place it in. Okay, he might know that, say, jujigatami is more appropriate and he has a higher rate of success in doing it in this situation, so he's not going to do it in that situation, and he automatically, responsively knows when to do it right. So this is really knowing your technique, really knowing your stuff. So that's a key thing. So you know the context with which to work it, and you're able to work it. So a fifth one, and I think this is a very important one, is this is the time of innovation in this Ri level. The student creates new aspects of movements in the technique, skill, or subject, and the student has transcended the basic structure or form, the basic kata, the structure of the technique, and is adding to the body of knowledge of this particular technique, skill, or subject. So once you know something very well, and you can feel your judo, you can feel it and make it work for you, now you have a better appreciation of what it is, how it works, and why it works. And you can take that and maybe create new things with it. Maybe put it in new situations or figure out a new way of applying it in a real functional way. So that's it, what Shuhari is. And this is, I've tried to give it the time it deserves, because it's really an interesting way. It's a very old traditional way of looking at the progression of skills. And even though in judo we in the Kodokan aspects we don't really talk about Shuhari all that much, it's back there. It's one of the basic tenets of the Japanese approach to teaching skill. And I'm sure Jigoro Kano must have run into this, because he was so highly skilled in jiu-jitsu. I'm sure he had to know this. But you can see this when you look at a lot of the methodology and the systematic way we teach judo. You can see these tenets of progression of skill in everything we do in judo as well. So they all blend together to make it a better product. So anyway, I hope you enjoy that little, hopefully not too long discussion and analysis of what the Shuhari is and how it can be used in training in judo, sambo, whatever it may be, in progression of skill. Hope you, if you're a coach, hope this helped you learn a little bit more about coaching. So thanks for watching.